Alright guys, well good afternoon and welcome to another technical analysis update here on Monday, and today is the 8th of August 2022 and it's just coming up to 2 p.m. here in the UK. It's just 1 p.m. UTC. Now I'm just going to do the normal check to make sure that the mic is working, audio is working, video seems to be working, so we are all good to go. So yeah, let me crack on straight with the cryptocurrency heat map. As you can see here, the great majority of crypto is in the green. There's very, very few exceptions here. But yes, the great majority of it is in the green. No noticeable sort of like really bad exceptions or anything like that. As for the stock market, it's a bit of a mixed bag. You can see that the great majority of it is neutral or red. There are a few exceptions here in the green, but yeah, with Tesla dumping a massive 6% here, 6.6%. But like I said, it's a bit of a mixed bag, so nothing really worth writing home about. In terms of the calendar, well, last week we saw the non-farm employment change, and for those of you who don't know what that means, obviously it's down with the employment figures, and basically the employment figures came in really, really hot at almost double of what was projected at 250,000. It came up as 528k. So that's obviously that's obviously massive and positive for the economy. And the projected unemployment rate, which was 3.6, came out as 3.5, which is basically just below the projected rate, which means again that there's no sign of inflation as regards to the employment sector. Now this week, however, it's all about the CPI, okay? So the CPI print's coming out on Wednesday, the August the 10th. This is basically the main measure of inflation, the consumer price index. And the projected rates are 0.2, and for the core CPI is 0.5. Now, we'll keep a close eye on this, and I'll do another TA update for you guys on Wednesday. But basically what this does is just a measure of what the inflation rates are. And at the moment, everybody's looking at this because the last one was quite negative. And it did push the markets down before they actually pumped again. But if this comes in really hot and basically the CPI print is actually below the forecast or at the forecast rate, that means that inflation rate, well, the inflation seems to be contained by what the Federal Reserve has been doing in terms of measures of like quantitative tightening and hiking the interest rates. And it looks like they're basically being successful in containing inflation. However, so that would push the markets up. So, however, if it comes out higher than the forecast rate, then of course this is going to send the markets down. Okay, I'm not saying it's going to be a massive crash and we're going to print new lows. We'll have a look at the charts for that, but nevertheless, it will definitely cause volatility either way. Okay, so if it comes in positive, it'll cause volatility. If it comes in negative, it'll cause volatility. So Wednesday is definitely not the best day to be trading or overexposed to any market. The best thing to do, in my personal experience, is to actually stay out and just let the dust settle and wait for the volatility to settle down, and then just check which direction it's going. Okay, so with that said, let's move on to the charts. And we start here with the S&P. Okay, so this is the S&P in blue. Okay, I've put it as a line chart, and the line chart in orange is obviously Bitcoin. And you can see that the correlation is still very much alive. You can see that here on the 1 hour chart. We have been going higher here. There's been a little bit of a divergence here where basically Bitcoin was retracing here, right? And the S&P was still going up. But other than that divergence, I mean, it's still very much clear that Bitcoin is kind of following the trend that the S&P is taking, right? So S&P looking very, very positive, and Bitcoin is also looking fairly positive with some highs, higher lows, higher highs, higher lows. And now we'll just see if we can print a new higher high or not, okay? But you can see that the correlation is still very much alive. Even though there have been a few divergences there, it tends to catch up, okay? Sometimes the S&P is leading, other times Bitcoin is leading. Like for example here, Bitcoin led to the upside, whilst the S&P was still going down, and then the S&P followed. So of course the S&P is not following what Bitcoin does, but it's just a reflection of basically what market participants are doing in the market. Okay, so with that said, I just wanted to show you this so that I can illustrate how the correlation is still very much alive. And you can see that here on the 4-hour chart as well. So let me just make this a little bit bigger like this. And you can see that, yeah, the S&P is definitely outperforming Bitcoin here. But Bitcoin is still very much on the upwards trend. So we'll have a look at the charts and make a little bit better sense out of this. So for the S&P on the 4-hour chart here, sorry, on the weekly chart here, you can see very clearly that we are back inside of this balance area here, right? So let me just grab a brush. So I'm looking at this high volume cluster here, and you can see that we're very much inside of. That's why I've put a rectangle there. I can take the rectangle off now, but you know, once we've got acceptance back inside the value, the 2022 value, this is the value area low, if you like, so the -1 standard deviation of the 2022 VWAP, it basically just rallied. Okay, so basically as soon as we got acceptance back inside of this range here, it's going up. So it looks like it is very much on its way to 4,280 points here, which has perfect confluence with where the yearly VWAP is, as you can see that there, right? So it does look like basically we got inside of that range, came back, tested that support right here in this candle here, in this weekly candle. Could put this on the daily to make this a little bit clearer. Right, so we accepted back inside the value, came back, confirmed that this low volume area is indeed support, and then we've gone higher. Not much higher, but we've definitely gone higher, right? So if you look at this now, you can see that this low volume area here around about 4,200 points could be a contention point, as it was the 2021 VWAP close that previously acted as resistance, right? So we're not quite there yet. We could be definitely heading there. On the daily chart, it's very visible. But if I put this back on the weekly chart, just so that we can see the overall picture. Okay, so that's the level that we were looking at right about here. So right about 4,200 points. But the yearly VWAP is sitting here right about 4,267 points, which is perfectly in line with this low volume area, which is the edge of the balance area of this high volume cluster. Okay, so it definitely looks like we're heading up that way, especially if the CPI print comes back positive on Wednesday. Okay, of course, if it doesn't come back positive, then we could be heading all the way back to this low volume area here, right about 4,070 points, and that level has to hold as support. Okay, well, it doesn't have to, but the bulls want to defend that area basically, because we want to be accepted inside of this high volume cluster. If we don't get accepted there, basically if we get rejected from this high volume cluster and we get back below 4,000 points, then we'll have to see if we see any signs of acceptance back inside of this high volume cluster. If we find acceptance below there, then I'm afraid that this was just a little bear market rally, and we're going to go and print new lows all the way down to 3,600 points, which is this low volume area here, right? Potentially this one here, but I mean, if we go that low, I do think that we're going all the way back down to 3,600 points. So on the weekly chart, it's clear as well that we've not quite broken market structure yet. This is the previous highs, so we've got a high, a low, a lower high, a lower low, then we've got this high and a lower low again, and now it wants to break this market structure. It wants to go at least to this area here around about 4,300 points to break these previous highs, and then even if it pulls back, it wants to stay above 4,000 points in order to print a higher low. So that would be a higher high and a higher low again, and that would most certainly indicate that we're heading higher, right? But we've not seen any of that. Okay, there are indications that this is bullish, but again, until we actually break this level here of 4,200 points, there's no sort of break in market structure as such. Okay, so that's basically on the weekly chart. If I look here at the VWAPs for the on different time frames, so let me just make this very clear. This here is the yearly VWAP. This here is the quarterly VWAP. Right down here is the monthly VWAP, and down here is the weekly VWAP. Okay, I haven't got that one on, so I'll just put that on just for a second. So here on the daily chart, we're looking at the quarterly VWAP. You can see that once we found acceptance back inside the previous quarter's value area low, we rallied, and we rallied straight above the previous quarterly close here. We confirmed that this is support, and indeed we rallied up, and now it does look like it wants to reach higher. And of course, the confluent level there is this previous quarter value area high, which is sitting at again around about 4,300 points. Okay, so a nice bit of confluence there for the upside. In terms of on the 4-hour chart here, in terms of the monthly VWAP, you can see that basically this was previous resistance here, the monthly VWAP back in June. Okay, once we came back down, we tested the value area low, the VWAP reset, we rallied up again, even though we confirmed it again as support, and again, right? But this previous month, the June VWAP was resistance. Once we rallied up above that, we rallied up again, we confirmed that this was indeed support, and then boom, we rallied straight up to the top. This was the target here, the June value area high. We've confirmed it above, so we've rallied above it, we've reclaimed it again as support, right? And then we've kind of been trying to get higher and confirmed it again as support, and we've been trying to get higher ever since. Now, where's the next level that we're looking for? Well, we're looking at around about here, 4,245 points, which is basically the April value area low. And of course, at around about 4,300 points, we've got the April VWAP close there. All right, you can see that this has got perfect confluence with that low volume area that I was talking about. Okay, and currently we are inside of this high volume cluster here, right? So between 4,080 points and 4,200 points. Okay, you can see that low volume node there. And of course, with a tapering volume here between 4,200 and 4,300, I wouldn't be surprised to see these large liquid candles to the upside if we do indeed break above 4,200 points. So it could be a very quick trip all the way to 4,300 before we see any resistance. Okay, so that's what I'm seeing here on the monthly VWAP here. And again, it's all confluent. But if I'm looking now at the weekly, you can see that we kind of, this is the weekly VWAP, of course, this is only the 1 hour chart, but you can see that we kind of like had an impulse and then range, right? So the flag limit, which is basically the base of the impulse here, got tested not once, but twice, and it confirmed it as support, okay, on those two occasions, without consuming most of that liquidity there, right? So once we confirmed that, we rallied back up again. This was previous resistance. We deviated above before we came down to test that support. We rallied up again, came back, confirmed that this was indeed support again, and this was just a really nice range to be trading. Of course, we broke back above that. There was a little bit of consolidation above, and then here on that NFP, the non-farm payroll, the markets kind of reacted negatively at first, and then back up again. But important to look at where it bounced. It bounced on the weekly value area low, right? So basically here we were confirming that the value area high was support. Here was support. Once we broke below it, it went straight through the weekly VWAP. It came back down here, confirmed that the value area low, the other side of the balance, was basically support, right? So straight back up to the value area high, and then it kind of like there was a little bit of volatility, of course, inherent with these kind of news. And then we bounced here on the weekly VWAP, and then here we are above, okay? And we broke above this previous level of consolidation, right? So this is important because until we actually, I highlighted this to the people in the group last week, that this was a period of consolidation. We broke below it, we came in here and confirmed that as resistance, right? We hovered at resistance for quite some time, and I said this is resistance until proven otherwise, and it's definitely not a good sign, because when you break out a previous balance area and you find a new balance, then we tend to go to the other side of balance. So I was expecting this to get hit again. Well, it didn't. It kind of rallied up again, and you could argue that this, I've heard this said many times now, that this is the most hated bear market rally in quite some time now. But the important thing is here, looking at the charts, is if we look at this as a range, let me just put this as a rectangle here, right? So let me just get the brush here. So basically we've peaked above now, we've found ourselves back inside of this range, so we could be rotating here for quite some time. Now, I mean, important thing to notice is that we are above the weekly VWAP, we're also above the monthly VWAP, the quarterly, and the only VWAP that we're below is the yearly, okay? So this is an important aspect because that means that we are bullish essentially, right? So at the moment, without this rectangle, let me take that off, you can see that we are testing basically this week's, so this is last week's actually. This is last week's value area high, and we're currently testing that. Okay, obviously this is Monday, so this is the start of a new week. For some reason, this is not reset yet. It reset yesterday. So yeah, no, this is the new week. So this is the new week value area high, okay? So basically we're testing that right now, and it has been holding as support all throughout yesterday. So we could be heading higher again. Of course, we could be heading lower as well and testing the previous week's value area high, which is exactly where the weekly daily VWAP are at the moment, okay? Losing that, of course, that means that we be accepted back inside of this range, which is basically last week's VWAP range here, where this was the close, this is the value area high, this is the value area low, and we could be heading all the way back down to 4,100 points. But at the moment, there's no signs of that. It does look very bullish. One thing that I wanted to highlight to you, so you know, I hope this kind of makes sense in terms of value here with the weekly VWAPs and stuff, with the weekly, the monthly, the quarterly, and the yearly. But one thing that I wanted to highlight to you is that why this is the most hated rally. Okay, so on the S&P, you can see that the great majority of the time, what's happened is that we print a top, then we deviate above the top here, and then we go on to print new lows. Same happened, we printed top here, came back to new lows, found a little bit of support. When it comes back high, it deviates above the previous top, and then it goes on and prints new lows. And it's been doing this for quite some time, like pretty much since December 2021, right? So everybody was expecting this to be just a bear market rally that is doing exactly the same thing, but here we are now, and we're almost above that deviation now. Okay, so I'm not saying that it's not possible that we deviate here, get back inside of this range, and go and print new lows. We could absolutely be doing that, but at the moment it looks unlikely. And you know, if the correlation is anything to go by, you can see that basically we are printing very close to previous highs here. Okay, so that means that if we break this market structure here, that's a break in market structure, and then basically all we have to do is print a higher low. Okay, so a higher low arguably could be around about here, 4,000 points, but in my personal opinion, it doesn't want to go lower than 4,100. Okay, so on the Nasdaq, it's a very sort of like similar picture. Okay, where basically these tops get raided before we actually plunge down. Again, another top gets raided, and then we go back down and print a new low. This top got raided, print a new low. But look, note how the extension is basically reduced here, right? There's nowhere near as big a dump here as it was here or here, right? We're looking at 16%, 22%, and here was just 11%. Now, as we start rallying, you know, we basically had a little bit of resistance here. When we broke above it, we came back and confirmed it as support, and now we're rallying here. Okay, and you can also see that essentially we've broken above this previous high here, so there's definitely a break in market structure there. So I'm expecting a pullback, and we could definitely see that pullback with the CPI print coming this week. But the question will be really on everybody's mind is, how low is this pullback going to be, if we are going to get a pullback at all? There's definitely a change here in market structure, and this is different from previous bear market rallies where we didn't just deviate above the previous highs and then printed in a new low, right? So this would have been the high, this would have been the deviation, and then essentially we would have gone and printed a new low here, but that didn't happen, right? And sometimes what doesn't happen is just as important. So this definitely looks like a change in dynamics here, in trend, if you like. Okay, so let's just wait and see what happens on the on Wednesday with the CPI print, and see where we are. Well, the only thing that is guaranteed is going to be fucking volatile. So if I was in any trades, I would either be reducing risk or getting out of the trades until the dust settles. So with all that crap out of the way, let's move on to Bitcoin. And I just want to highlight here the weekly chart. This is the oldest Bitcoin chart in existence. This goes all the way back to 2010, August 2010. So this is actually an index chart, but I just wanted to highlight something that everybody's been talking about it for ages right now, which is basically the 200 weekly simple moving average, right? So the 200 weekly has been acting as support for years now. Okay, so every time we usually, well, not every time, but most of the time when we when we go down to the 200 weekly, we tend to bounce there. Okay, this was the COVID bump here in March 2020 with the fear in the markets because of the lockdowns and the restrictions and everything else. So we kind of deviated below, but you can see that that's basically where we bounced, right? Once we've reclaimed it, we bounced and it went on to the rally that we saw in 2020. Now here we fell below again and we deviated below for quite some time, and this week, today, this candle here is this week's candle, right? We've just reclaimed that, okay? So in fact, last week we reclaimed it, but it looks like we wanted to push lower, okay? But it managed to close just above the 200 weekly moving average. Okay, this is a simple moving average. Now, we all know that moving averages are lagging indicators. This is not necessarily like something that you would use be trading on an intraday or day trading or whatever, but definitely on a higher time frame is a good sort of like a good measure. If the past is anything to go by, is usually a good measure that we have perhaps seen the worst of the dumps on Bitcoin, right? So that that is behind us, and perhaps the bottom was there around about 17,500. So we'll have to have a close look at that, but this is definitely looking bullish here, and it does look like we could be heading a little bit higher. I'll have a closer look at that in just a second. I just wanted to highlight this for you guys so that you see that we've definitely reclaimed the 200 weekly moving average. Now on the Coinbase chart, and we look at the weekly chart as well, you can see here that we are basically right at the edge of this higher volume cluster here. Okay, so this is the high volume cluster that we've printed for the last sort of like a couple of months or whatever, since we've been here, since June, and this is basically the high volume cluster, and we're kind of like tapping really just at the edge of that. Okay, note also that we are basically just teasing with the value area low of this yearly VWAP, okay, with the -1 standard deviation and acceptance back inside the year's value. That would mean almost certainly that we go and test the 2022 VWAP. Okay, so this is something to keep in mind. Okay, the only thing that you have to also keep in mind, and that we've got relatively strong resistance here above us with this low volume area. There's hardly any fucking volume there, and basically that's going to be resistance until proven otherwise. But inherent with the fact that there's no volume there, what tends to happen is that the price travels very quickly through there if we do indeed push to the upside, which means that we could see a very vicious impulse all the way to 28,500, something like that, if we are indeed to go to the upside, okay, where real resistance will be on the edge of this high volume cluster here. Okay, so you could argue that the volume cluster is a little bit smaller. You could actually say that this one here, for example, is a decent level to be trading and aiming for around about $30,000 or whatever. That would be quite confluent with that yearly VWAP there, around about 30, sitting at around about 32,500. But yeah, I mean, the thing that is important to see here, if I put this on the daily, is that we've been rejected from this value area low quite a few times now, and today we've broken above it. So will this now hold as support? And if it does, will we then have enough fuel to pump us all the way to 28,000, which is the edge of this high volume cluster here? Or are we just going to be like basically printing a lower high here and then just moving lower, okay, to around about 22,000, you know, right about this low volume node? That's what we'll have to see. But like I said, Wednesday we've got some volatility coming, so we could definitely see a massive impulse to the upside, or we could see definitely a pullback, and a decent pullback, like I said before, would be round about here, 22,500, but we could also see round about 21,500, and I'll show you why in just a second. Okay, so that's basically what I'm seeing here on the higher time frames if we're looking at the weekly and the yearly in the yearly VWAP. Okay, so again, this is the yearly, this is the quarterly, this is the monthly, and this here is the weekly, right? So moving on from there, let's have a look at the quarterly VWAP here on the daily chart, and you can see that basically we've got an acceptance back inside the previous quarter value area low. This is the VWAP close, this is the value area high, and we are accepted inside. We've confirmed that this is indeed support, and now it wants to rally higher. If it wants to rally higher, the quarterly VWAP close is sitting at around about $30,000, which is basically where this high volume node here is, for this volume cluster here. Okay, so I mean, this is a little bit ambitious to go all the way to 30,000 just yet. Like I said, it would be good to just even get above this previous level of support, which is now undoubtedly going to be resistance, right? The edge of this high volume cluster here, the lower edge. So support turns to resistance, resistance turns to support, and this level of support that would potentially be turning into resistance has not been tapped yet. So that, in my opinion, is a high probability trade. And if we do get to around about $27,500, $28,000, that will most definitely be resistance, at least on the first and second tap. Okay, so that's basically what I'm saying for levels of resistance on the higher time frames. And levels of support, I've also given you around about $22,000. If I look here at the monthly VWAP on the 4-hour chart, the picture it paints is very much the same. You can see here that we could not stay above the June VWAP close. This was resistance. Okay, here we did come above it. We confirmed it as support, but we could not sustain this this range, and then we fell below it, and we confirmed it as resistance for quite some time. But there was no strong rejections there. We were actually just hovering at that resistance. So naturally, this week we rally back above. So what remains to be seen now is, can we sustain this range here and stay within this range, and perhaps just range here for a while until we break to either side. Okay, what we want to see is, are we going to be hovering at resistance and staying very put close to resistance? If we do, that's an early indication that we're about to pump. Okay, and if it within this range we get back to support and we kind of like start hovering at support, and the longer we stay at support, the more chances we've got of actually coming down to that $22,500 level, which is this low volume node. But personally, I think that once we get accepted back inside the previous month value, okay, so this was July VWAP close, this is the value area high here, this is the value area low. Once we get accepted back below this, I think the natural thing to be expecting would be us to get all the way to the VWAP close, which is around about here at 21,500. Note also that this is a solid high volume cluster, and that would be the HVE, or the top boundary, if you like, the range high, if you like, of this high volume cluster. All right, so that's why I'm looking at 21,500, and I have been for quite some time. I've been calling this since last week, but unfortunately we've not seen any significant downside since then. One of the important things to note here as well is that we are in fact, if I put a parallel channel here, we are in fact in a bit of a trend here, and this is confirmed by 1, 2, 3 taps to the upside here. Okay, that's pretty crap. Let me just adjust this slightly. Right, so I've got 3 taps to the upside here. We've got at least 3 or 4 taps here to the downside. So this confirms to me that it's definitely a decent parallel channel, decent range, if you like. Okay, note how it came confirmed here on the middle, on the equilibrium of this parallel channel, and we bounced from there. Okay, I know these are arbitrary. Okay, there's other things that I look at, but in terms of confluence, that most definitely looks like a bounce at support, right? If I put the stalker on as well, this is basically a 200 exponential moving average, okay, on the 4-hour chart. As you can see here, basically that's exactly where we bounced. Okay, so there's a little bit of confluence there as well. Now, basically what we're seeing here is that we printed a high, we printed a low, printed some higher lows here. This was a previous high. We went on to print a higher high, yet another higher low here, a higher high again, a higher low, yet another higher high, and another higher low. So there's no reason for me to doubt that we're actually heading to this level here, right? But my personal opinion says, and this is just my opinion, I'm not a financial advisor, okay? I'm saying that basically we have now broken above the June VWAP close, okay? So this is basically this line here. And essentially, for me, if this holds as support, the next natural level to expect is round about here, $27,600. Now, I want you to remember that figure, because I'm going to show you something on Exocharts that will add confluence to this, right? So this is the June value area high, sitting round about 27,500 and well, 27,600, something like that. You can see also that there is a previous balanced low here, okay, which has perfect confluence with the previous level of support that I was talking about at around about 28,500, but that's a different story, okay? So for me, the first target is round about here, 27,500, 27,600, and I want you to remember that figure, so I'll show you something on Exocharts that will definitely pique your interest, okay? So definitely looking bullish here on Bitcoin. If we do see that the CPI print comes out positive, then I have no doubt that we're going to head to these levels here. If the CPI print is negative, however, we'll have to see at which levels of support we're going to get. Are we going to get this first one here, this low volume node at around about 22,400, which is basically where that, where it is, yeah. So it's basically very close to where the 200 exponential moving average is on the 4-hour chart. Or are we going to go and see actually basically acceptance back inside of this value here, and we're going all the way up, all the way down here to the edge of this high volume cluster around about 21,500. That's basically what we're looking at. Even if we did come all the way back down, hey, guess what? It's still a higher low. Okay, so the parallel channel doesn't really work here, but it's basically higher than this one. Okay, so that would have been the higher high, and this here would have been a higher low. So again, it's not the end of the world if we go all the way to 21,500. I just want you to keep an eye on these levels. Well, basically, I'm keeping an eye on these levels because for me, that kind of like adds confluence to the narrative. Okay, they're contextual levels, if you like. So that's basically what I'm seeing here on the 4-hour chart with the monthly VWAPs. If I look at the weekly chart, again, the situation is very much the same as what we saw on the S&P, right? So we had a previous range here. Once we broke back inside of this weekly value, right, this previous weekly value here, once we broke back below it, we could not get back above it. That was that previous monthly close there, right, which had confluence with the previous week, which is the week of ending in the 23rd of July, right? So that was resistance, 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 and today we've broken above it with conviction as well. So not only have we broken above it, we went straight to the other side of the balance here, okay? So if you're not sure what I'm talking about in terms of balance here, I'm looking at this range here as a balance area, okay? This is basically where this high volume cluster has been forming as a result, okay? So basically down here is support, up here is resistance until proven otherwise, these two low volume areas, okay? So now that we're back inside of this range, will we hold it or will we not hold it? That's the big question, right? So the volatility coming on Wednesday will either propel us to the upside and go all the way to 27,500, 600 or whatever, which is that level that I asked you to remember, or it could definitely send us down. And if it sends us down, like I said, we could be, this is definitely the first target around about 23,600, but we could be going all the way back down to this low volume area here at 22,500 and potentially lower at 21,500, which is this low volume area here. Okay, so we'll just have to wait and see. Again, this is just confirming basically what I'm seeing on the higher time frames, and I only use really the weekly chart, the weekly VWAPs and the hourly chart for trading intraday. So with that all said, let's move on to Exocharts. And what we're seeing on Exocharts, in fact, what I'll do is I'll start with the weekly volume profile here. Now, you can see that we've left a naked point of control around about here, 24,500. We had one just above us at 23,700. I was looking for shorts there, admittedly, but it was too early in the morning for me, so I didn't actually catch this, and I'm glad because I would have been stopped out, right? So this was basically wrong. I was actually thinking that we'd lost that previous balance, all right? So we were going to test this naked point of control, which I'll show you on the market profile in just a second, and then we were heading lower. Well, I was completely wrong. We actually smashed straight through that naked point of control, and now it looks like it wants to head to the highest one, which is around about 24,500. So that's the first target for these first few days here of the week, right? 24,500. However, if we do break above that, you can see that there's hardly no volume above, right? This is the low volume area that I was talking about and showing you on the candlestick charts, right? There's hardly any volume all the way to $28,000, right? Now, the level that I was asking you to pay attention to is 27,500. Well, guess what? We've got a naked point of control sitting at round about $27,400, okay? So this could be potentially a target if we do actually go up, and we could definitely just get to 27,500 and turn around and come back down again to this range, right? And basically that everybody that's looking at 28,000, 28,500 would get sort of like front run, if you like, okay? So it's worth noting as well that we've got another naked point of control here at 29,650, okay? But that's well within this balance area if you look at this, right? So that's basically the previous range here. So this one is basically back inside of that level, okay? I'm not saying that it's not possible, but this level here, like I said, 28,000, 28,500 will be strong resistance because it was previous support and it's largely untested. So the level that could get front run, that $28,500, $28,000 could get front run, and the level that I want you to look at is round about $27,400, $27,500. Okay, so again, it's got perfect confluence with that value area high of the monthly, of the June value area high, if you like, and we've also got that naked point of control there. However, we did leave a naked point of control down here at $23,000, and we've got another one all the way down at $19,727. Now, if we were to come all the way down here, that would mean basically that there's a change in market structure, because basically this low would have been taken out, right? So let's just imagine that we go all the way down here. Well, that's a change in trend because basically we would have taken that that previous low. So this is definitely one of the more bearish targets, but it's potentially a level that we should be watching, right? Around about $19,750. The one that is a little bit more prominent and it's a little bit closer to the price is round about here at $23,000, and that could definitely be tapped before we go any higher, right? So this could potentially going all the way up here, and then we could range here for a little while, but the markets are looking like it want to rally to the upside. So of course we've got volatility coming in on Wednesday, so it's very difficult to position yourself long when we're at these highs, right? Nobody wants to buy at resistance. So on these pullbacks, it's potentially a good idea to be going long. Okay, so if we head back down to 23,000, don't get fixated on this previous low. We could definitely just bounce there. So perhaps it's time to buy the fucking dip again every single time it dips, right? It's definitely proven profitable every time it's done so far since June, right? So we could definitely be seeing a change in direction here. So let's have a look at the market profile, where things are a little bit more granular here, right? So what I've got here, this rectangle here, which I'm going to put it as a red zone, if you like, or orange zone. Okay, this is a 2-day composite of these two profiles merged together. Okay, so it's a composite value area. All right, so admittedly it's changed here a little bit. So, but anyway, we were basically below that. Once we've lost this balance area here, this 2-day composite value, we basically headed lower. We bounced on these single prints here. Okay, we've left a few trapped shorts all the way down here, right? And then we rallied from there, and it's basically just tapping at this resistance, and we've basically rallied today all the way past this balance. So not only did we actually break straight into that balance area, the trade idea that I had, I'm going to illustrate that, I said I would. What I was looking for is basically come all the way up here, take out this naked point of control, and basically fake to the upside, and then coming back down outside of this 2-day composite would indicate that this is indeed a short, and I'll be targeting for these trap shorts. Sorry, it wasn't those trap shorts, it was these trap shorts down here that potentially could be adding as support, right? Around about $22,400, which is that low volume node that I was showing you on the candlesticks, right? So I was aiming for these as a short here. So none of that happened, and I'm quite glad that I didn't take the trade because I was still asleep, and we rallied up, and now we are above this 2-day composite. Okay, so this 2-day composite now will have to act as support. Okay, basically falling back inside of this 2-day composite means that we're back in this range, right? So I don't want to overcomplicate things too much, but if we basically head back down here around about 24,000, 23,900, then we almost certainly would confirm that this is indeed resistance at 24k, and we'd be heading all the way down to 23,700, perhaps even testing these single prints down here at 23,500, and potentially even testing this naked point of control at $23,000, okay, where basically we've left some trapped shorts down here, okay? So there's a little bit of confluence there with the trap shorts in the previous day naked point of control. So that's basically where we should be heading if we fall back inside of this range. If we do not fall back inside of this range, then I'm thinking that we just go higher. We take out this naked point of control at 24,500, and then of course we'll be looking at 27,400 as the next naked point of control, which is the one level that I was asking you guys to pay attention to, right? We've also got a session VWAP close that is untapped there, it's naked, and these have got a good hit rate, okay? However, this is going to the upside. Going to the downside, I've given you some short-term targets. However, if we break those short-term targets, we've got loads of bullshit down here, man. I mean, we've got poor lows all the way down here, okay? So let me just highlight this again. Okay, so we've got poor lows here, poor lows here, poor lows here. We've got a session VWAP close that is untapped. We've got the monthly VWAP that's not been tested for quite some time, right next to some single prints, right? We've got a naked point of control at $21,200, and also a poor low which has perfect confluence, which is right at that low there, right? A poor low that's perfect confluence with session VWAP that is untapped at around about 21k, right? So additionally, we've still got another poor low down here, right? And of course, we've got another naked point of control at 19,700, 19,600 has got a session VWAP close. So there's loads of anomalies down here, loads of liquidity to the downside. So if this is the mother of all bull traps, then, I mean, if we can't break above this and we do not go, or even if we do go all the way to 27,500 and then kind of like, you know, this is a great short, because basically this is what I'm trying to say. If we do get all the way up here, we're still kind of inside of this previous range, right? However, if the market was to extend itself to 27,500, which is only below the previous level of support, okay, that would still be printing on the higher time frames. That would still be printing a lower high, and we could continue to print new lows, right? So, but you know, obviously this is a great trade going all the way up here, but this could be the mother of all shorts up here, right? Of course, this will look very, very bullish, but if we come all the way back down here and then decide that we're going to take out this liquidity, that's a fucking huge trade, right? So, you know, if this is the mother of all bull traps, right, that's the level that you want to be entering at, around about $27,400, $28,500, okay? You know, so that's a higher time frame, sort of like a long-term target, if you like, for a short, okay? Now, we'll have to observe what the CPI print shows us, okay? Of course, if it's going to be bearish and everything starts tanking, then we might not even get to 27,500. We might just take this naked point of control here, and we'll have to take this short and be targeting these lower levels down here. Take out these single prints, these poor lows, and perhaps even go as low as 21,000 or 19,700, where basically we've got these naked point of controls. So that's basically, I've got some higher time frame there, and long-term kind of targets. I've given you the short-term targets as well, so I think that's pretty much it for Bitcoin. So let's move on to Ethereum. I'm just going to check that there's any questions here in the chat. Managed to join the stream today. Thanks for the Saturday stream. It was very informative. You're very welcome, man. You know, I hope it helps keep you guys stay on the right side of the trade. That's basically what I do this for. But I'm not a financial advisor. I'm not here to tell you what to do with your money. I lose money in trading all the fucking time, right? So risk management is key. Just manage your risk properly, and hopefully that means that your losses will be controlled and your winners will outweigh your losses. So survival is key here. Don't just go trading the levels that I give you by aping in fucking 10x, 20x leverage and with all your equity, okay? So, yeah, I'm not a financial advisor. Anyway, moving on. Let's move on to Ethereum versus USD. Now, we start here with the weekly chart, and obviously, needless to say, that Ethereum's got a narrative with the merge and the changing from proof of work to proof of stake. Of course, all the investors have got their dicks hard about this. This is, you know, everybody's holding Ethereum, not just because we had a massive pullback as well, but also because this merge is kind of bullish, right? Because just like the Bitcoin halving, Bitcoin halving usually is it's the deflationary system of Bitcoin, which will halve the difficulty, but it will double the difficulty by 50%, which halves the miners' rewards by 50%. This is the deflationary nature of Bitcoin. Now, with Ethereum going on to proof of stake, it means that there's no more coins to be mined. Okay, so with all the mechanisms, I'm not really that an expert on this, okay, so just bear with me, and I'm sorry if I'm making a bit of a dog's dinner out of this, but from my understanding is that the deflationary, how should I word this? Basically, the maximum supply of Ethereum will now be capped, and basically the deflationary system, the calculation is round about minus 90% of the supplied tokens, which is huge, right? So it's like the Bitcoin halving on steroids. Minus 90%, because basically the miners will not be mining Ethereum anymore, and the maximum supply is now capped. So therefore there'll be a deflationary system, and the rewards are given to those who will be staking, right? So, you know, this is important, and of course there's perhaps the narrative of what's driving Ethereum so strongly to the upside. So I just wanted to sort of like preempt that, and I think if you guys want to learn more about this, look at Galois Capital. That's Galois Capital on Twitter. He has a pretty good thread and explaining the mechanism behind and potentially the plays that you should be doing with this Ethereum merge. Now, the Ethereum merge is due in September sometime. And of course, everybody that's holding Ethereum are betting that some of the miners will be shifting their mining operations to different chains like ETC, like the Ethereum Classic. Now, of course, that's why Ethereum Classic was also pumping, but there's also potential for a new fork to appear, so a proof of work Ethereum. And if that's the case, then, you know, in order to compete with ETC, we could see basically an airdrop. You know, what happens with forks. If you were around in 2017, 2018, you will know this because of all the forks that were happening on Bitcoin and Ethereum, etc. That basically, if you're holding Ethereum, you'll get one-to-one airdrop of the new fork. So basically, if there's Ethereum proof of work coming along and you've got 10 Ethereums in your wallet, you should be getting 10 Ethereum proof of work in your wallet as a result of that, because the fork will basically the snapshot at the fork will basically reward you with whatever you've got in Ethereum at the time of the snapshot. So I made a bit of a dog's dinner out of that. I hope you guys understand what I'm trying to say. So that's basically the narrative as to why Ethereum is pumping so hard, okay? So what is clear here from the weekly chart, right, is that we are definitely back inside the value area low of 2021. Okay, so this is the -1 standard deviation of the VWAP close, and we are back inside of that. We are also back inside the value area low of the 2022 VWAP. Okay, so this is important. Okay, this is basically Ethereum does look like it's outperforming Bitcoin on the short term. We will look at that on the ETH BTC chart in just a second. But basically, we are inside of this volume profile here, this high volume cluster, right? And as such, once we actually reclaimed this high volume cluster, we came back down, we tested this previous balance area as support. This is basically this week here, right? As you can see here perfectly from my shitty brush marks. So let me just grab. Right, you can see that line there is basically perfectly in line with this high volume cluster here, and the market this week came all the way back down here, and then it bounced, okay, confirming that this was indeed a rejection of this previous balance. Therefore, we go on to the next balance, which is this one, right? So this level here has to hold now as support, right? That's sitting at round about, let me just move this line here, $1,500. Okay, so $1,500 on a higher time frame is a very important level of support. Okay, big round number as well. Okay, so where would be the next level of resistance? Well, quite simply, I would say this low volume node here, around about $2,000. Okay, so we're kind of stuck here between $1,500 and $2,000 for the time being. We are being pushed down, if you like, or held down by this high volume node at around about $1,800. But we're basically under no mistake that we're basically entering a new balance area. We've entered this balance area here, and therefore we should be heading to the other side of balance to confirm that this is indeed an acceptance of this range, okay, of this balance area. Of course, when we get to $2,000, that should be strong resistance, but if we do break above it, then we'll be looking for acceptance inside of this balance area here, and that's sitting between $2,000 and $2,500. Okay, so really quite easy, $500 increments, right? So it's really quite easy to look at this on the weekly chart and say, hey, okay, so $1,500 support, $2,000 the next level of resistance. If we flip $2,000, then the next level of resistance will be $2,500. Well, it's not quite as simple as that. We do have under indicators here that will cause intraday resistance and everything else. So I'll look at this on the lower time frames to try and explain. But you can see here that basically the important thing I want you to look at is that we got acceptance inside the value area low of this year, and we've got resistance here with this yearly VWAP sitting at around about $2,333. Okay, breaking above that, then we'll be looking at that $2,500 level, which is basically the edge of this high volume cluster. But if it's really, really bullish for Ethereum, I mean, you could argue that this whole thing here is actually one big volume distribution, right? So we could be heading all the way to $2,800, right? But, we've got a previous level of support here that's not been tapped as resistance. And if we do go all the way up, guess what? It's very close to that yearly VWAP, and that previous level of resistance will undoubtedly turn into, the previous level of support will undoubtedly turn into resistance. So I'm sorry if I made a bit of a muddle out of that. So let me just rephrase all of this again. We're basically sitting somewhere between $1,500 and $2,000 for now. If we break above $2,000, then I think that the next level of resistance will be around about here where this yearly VWAP is, okay, which is sitting at around about $2,400, but ultimately we could be heading all the way to $2,500 and $2,800 respectively. All right, so that's on the weekly chart. And again, let me just put this in perspective again. This is the yearly VWAP, this is the quarterly VWAP, this here is the monthly VWAP, and this here, as usual, is the weekly VWAP. So let's look at the daily chart, and you can see here on the daily chart that not only did we get acceptance back inside the previous quarter value, right? So as you can imagine, I keep referring to this as value. If you can imagine that this is a volume profile like this, right? This would be the point of control, this would be the value area low, this would be the value area high. So that's basically how we're playing this, right? So we got acceptance back inside this previous balance, right? We confirmed inside, we came back, confirmed this as support. So we broke inside, confirmed it as support, we bounced on the current quarter's VWAP here, and then we rallied up above, okay? And since then, we've been staying above the current quarter's value area high for quite some time. So naturally, the next level that I'll be watching is this quarterly VWAP close at around about $2,200. But like I said, we are being held down around about here, $1,900. There's a low volume node, and if I was to pull the whole chart here, you can see that there's actually a high volume cluster, this high volume cluster, which is the point of control, if you like, sitting at around about $1,800. Okay, so that's what we're finding. Resistance here is around about $1,800, and it's not surprising because this is a previous level of support, as you can see here on the daily. So therefore, it's going to be resistance, of course, right? Despite of the narrative. Now, that's basically on the quarterly VWAP. We are above the current quarter's VWAP, but we're still below the previous quarter, okay, which is a static level. On the monthly VWAP, which is basically the 4-hour chart that we're seeing here, like I said, we are at previous support, which is now resistance, and of course it's going to be strong resistance until proven otherwise, okay? I showed you on the higher time frames there's a big point of control there, a big high volume node, so $1,800 is a contention point there, all right? But I want you to notice that we are basically, we bounced on this previous balance here on the value area low, okay? Once we broke above the previous month of July here, sorry, month of June, VWAP close, we bounced there, we found resistance at the value area high, we came all the way back down to the 200 exponential moving average here on the 4-hour chart, just like on Bitcoin, right? And then we bounced there, and as we bounced, of course, we get back above this previous level of resistance, which is the value area low of June, sorry, value area high of June, and of course it bounced there as support, bounced there as support, and now we're above the current month's value area high, and we're going higher, right? So there's no reason for me to be bearish here. Obviously everything depends on what Bitcoin's going to do and what the S&P is going to do, but I mean, this is looking very, very bullish here for Ethereum, and you know, narrative or not, the chart's telling me that even though we're definitely at resistance, this is bullish. Okay, so I want to buy Ethereum on a pullback. Okay, I'd like to see a deeper pullback than this. This is a pretty crappy pullback. I would have expected at least to around about $1,400. I wanted a pullback to $1,400, but we might still see that if the CPI print comes out really, really negative. So do keep that in mind. All right, so like I said, next level of resistance will be around about $2,000, but $1,800 is doing a pretty good job as acting as resistance right now because it's a previous level of support, right? So so that's on the monthly VWAP, the 4-hour chart, and here on the 1-hour chart, let's have a quick look. Again, very much the same kind of scenario here, where we were, this was a previous resistance level, confirmed it as support. We came back down, we confirmed that this previous range, right, this is a range here. Hang on, let me just take this volume profile off. Right, and just simplify this just like price action type thing. Okay, so we've got level of, let me just do it like this. Could argue that this is there like that. Okay, so we had a previous range there going on, right? Previous range where we basically tapped the highs at resistance, right? We fell back below the equilibrium. We came all the way to the lows. We didn't quite hit the low there. We hit previous balance high there, right? And we bounced there, and we've traveled straight to the other side of the balance here, of the range. And then here we just got rejected again and again, falling inside of this balance, right? So if I was to actually adjust this and put this as a range here, right? So if this was the range, note how the price deviated below, we traveled and shot straight past the previous balance, formed a little balance above, came back, and we confirmed that this range here was going to get rejected, right? I was expecting, like I said, $1,400 to go back inside the range again. That didn't happen, and so we rallied, and here we are rallying to the upside now. Okay, so naturally the next level of support should be this previous level of resistance, right, around about $1,750. But ultimately we could be coming all the way to around about $1,500, maybe even $1,600, which is the previous range high here. Confirm this as support, right? So on the lower time frames it's a little bit more confusing, but on the higher time frames it's pretty damn clear of what we're looking at. Okay, the lower time frames it's a little bit more ambiguous, and I want to be looking at really around about $1,750 as support, which was that, you know, basically this previous level of resistance here, right? That wants to hold as support if we are indeed to go to the upside. The CPI print could put all this shit on its head because, you know, the markets could rally, it could dump, you know, it's going to be highly volatile. So we'll have to wait and see what happens with Ethereum. But just remember that Ethereum very much follows what Bitcoin does, even though it's been outperforming it. And if Bitcoin dumps, Ethereum tends to dump. If Bitcoin pumps, Ethereum tends to pump, right? So that's basically it on the lower time frames and the higher time frames for Ethereum and the candlestick charts. Let's move on to Exocharts and see if we can find anything significant here. Just bear with me just a second. Before I go on to the market profile, let's have a look at the volume profile here on the daily. Now, in terms of targets to the upside, I've got a naked point of control here around about $2,000.57. Okay, so 2,055 actually. This naked point of control at, you know, it's perfect confluence with that $2,000 level, right? Additionally, we've left plenty of anomalies below. We've got loads of naked points of control. Too many to be mentioning them all, but I'll mention the closest ones at around about 1676, 1660, 1573, and then we've got some at 1469 and 1423, which is basically that low volume area that I was talking about that I wanted to see a pullback to. If we do see a pullback there, right, so if we see a pullback all the way down here, it's still a higher low, right? So this is a higher high. Previous high was here, so this is a higher high. This is a higher low, higher high again, higher low. You can argue that this low here would have been taken, and that's a change in market structure, and you could be quite right here. But I would definitely like to see a pullback, at least to $1,400. But the market doesn't give a fuck what I want, right? So I'd like to see that, but we might not get it, okay? So we could potentially just bounce around about here, 1580, $1,650 or whatever, and then just carry on up. So if it's a bull market and it's the start of a bull market and the bottom is in, then that's definitely what's going to happen. But even in bull markets, we see large drawbacks, okay? We see usually large pullbacks. So a 25% correction is not uncommon in a bull market, all right? So just keep that in mind. Looking at the market profile now for Ethereum, you can see that we've got shitload of anomalies below us, okay? So there was no excess to the upside, okay? There was this poor high here, but we've taken that out now. But we've got loads of naked points of control below. The orange ones are time-based, and the blue ones are volume-based, okay? So volume points of control. We've also got some single prints around about here, $1,600, and we've got a composite value area, which is basically a 3 or 4 day composite here. They're basically where we bounced from, right? So like I said, this was a range or a composite value, if you like. We rallied above, we came back down, and then here we got that rejection inside that value, okay? We didn't want to be back inside of this, confirmed that this is indeed getting rejected here, and so we bounced up. If we see a negative CPI print, then I could see these single prints here getting corrected. You can see that basically, let me just delete this for a second. You can see that this here is just like on Bitcoin. You see there's loads of anomalies here, right? So in fact, let me just do this like this. We got loads of anomalies to the downside, okay? We've got poor lows, we've got the single prints, we've got these naked points of control here, we've got more poor lows with no excess. We've also got another a single print here around about $1,520, and we've got some time-based naked points of control around about $1,450 and $1,400. And then we've also got some single prints down below here around about $1,300, but that's a little bit too far to be looking at. But I wouldn't be surprised to seeing these guys get taken out, right? Because everybody that's long on Ethereum is going to put their stops where? Round about here, and we haven't seen a cascading liquidation for quite some time, okay? So that CPI print on Wednesday could be the day where we see that, okay, with extreme volatility. Just remember that everybody that's gone long here, some of the longs got trapped up here, right? But then we bounced, right? So there's not really a massive punishment for them. However, all these guys that went long down here would have had their stops way around about here, $1,500. So I wouldn't be surprised to see the market come all the way down to $1,500 and lower to $1,400 to basically run their stops and to kick everybody out of the market before actually continuing back up again. All right. So this is just a narrative and an opinion. I'm not saying that this is definitely what's going to happen, but I'm giving you levels that you keep in mind, both to the upside and to the downside. I'm not telling you it's going to go up or it's going to go down. That's up for you to decide, and it changes all the time on intraday. That's why I only give you levels and tell you where the levels of interest are as far as I'm concerned, okay? So I'm not going to give you targets, single print, stop losses and whatever, but it's the same here on Bitcoin, right? Where do you think that the great majority of the stops are going to be, right? Basically, anybody that's gone long in the last couple of weeks, like all of these guys here, are going to have their stops here, right? This is basically where everybody's stops are. So if the market was to have a pullback, then of course, we'll take out all of those stops, perhaps take out these single prints, maybe even go as low as here, but you know, $21,800, $22,000, $21,500, somewhere around there would take out all of these guys' stops, right? It would take out all of these guys, and then the market could still rally higher, right? So just bear that in mind. The volatility on Wednesday is going to be significant, I believe, and it's going to be pretty decisive in determining what the direction of the market is going to be for the next sort of few weeks and months, right? So anyway, that's Ethereum. I kind of digressed a little bit. Let's move on to Ethereum versus BTC. Now I want to take out these support resistance levels and just go on to the weekly here for a second. Now you can see very clearly here that we're basically outperforming Bitcoin like by a huge majority in the last sort of few weeks or so, right? So we bounced, for those of you that are new here, we bounced here on the 2021 VWAP close, okay? We've rallied up above the previous trend line, which was basically holding as support since the 21st of June 2021. We'd broken that down. We broke straight back above it, not just above the year's value, but also the yearly VWAP. And now we were testing the value area high of 2022, and it does look like we've just broken above it. So let me just delete all these brush marks so you guys can see clearly. We've not quite cracked it just yet, okay? But that's basically what I said to you guys. If you don't believe me, go and watch the last technical analysis update or any technical analysis update from the last 2 or 3 weeks, and you'll see that these were the targets that I was giving you. First, it was this one here, and then secondly was this one here, and that's exactly where we are right now. Okay, at the moment we are struggling to get above that value area high, right, at 75,000 sats. If we do go above that, then of course I've got 80,000, 81,000 sats as the next level of resistance. But this is definitely a level of resistance. As you can see here, I'd already had a red line. That's basically where we're kind of struggling to get back above this. This is not hindsight trading. Please go back, look at the technical analysis updates and see that I actually gave you these levels as the next levels of resistance. Now, for levels of support, I'll put these back on again. We've got, naturally, I've got this level here, which is the yearly VWAP, the trend line from June 2021, right? All acting as support. And, you know, like I said, we rallied up above, we came back down again. Let me just make this a little bit thicker. Came down back again, confirmed that as support, and so we rallied, right? So, you know, potentially we could be coming all the way back down here for support if we do see a downturn on the markets, right? But we don't want to be losing that level, because if we lose that level, in my personal opinion, it's all the way back down to 64,000 sats, okay, which is basically the value area low of the current year. All right, the important thing to notice here is that the current year's VWAP, let me just make sure I got this, it's also got confluence with the value area high, which is this level here, value area high of the 2021 VWAP close, okay, which is around about here. So again, 70,000 sats, 68,000 sats, strong level of support until proven otherwise. If we break below that one, then I'm afraid we could be heading as low as 64,000 sats, and maybe even lower to a previous level of resistance that's been largely untested, around about here, 60,000, 58,000 sats. But let's not think about that, because I think that's a little bit too far-fetched. In my personal opinion, I think we're seeing some levels to the upside taken out first and foremost. And like I said, I'll be looking at 81,000 sats for the next level of resistance, because the narrative has not changed for Ethereum. Okay, so even if Bitcoin pumps, I think Ethereum will pump more, and Ethereum will continue to outperform Bitcoin until proven otherwise. Okay, so this is the next level that I'm expecting. The level that has to hold as support is this one, but we are currently stuck at this one here as resistance. Okay, so if you were to imagine this as a range, we're currently stuck in the middle somewhere, right? So, but that's basically where we're heading. We're heading to this level of resistance here. And if we go lower first, then this level here wants to hold a support. Otherwise, this range is null and void, and we'll be heading a little bit lower to around about this level here. Okay, so that's on Ethereum BTC on the higher time frames. On the lower time frames, it's pretty much the same scenario. There's no really, not much point in kind of repeating all of that stuff. But I'll just give you a kind of an overview, if you like. So here, again, on the daily chart, we're looking at the quarterly VWAP. We're kind of very quickly approaching the previous quarter value area high here, okay, where we bounced on the previous quarter VWAP close here, confirmed that as support at confluence with the yearly VWAP as well. and now we're heading to this level here around about 77,000 sats, 80,000 sats in my personal opinion. Okay, so we are above the quarterly VWAP, we're above the yearly VWAP, we are also above the monthly VWAP, which is basically this little red line here. Okay, and of course we are above the weekly VWAP, which is also confluent with the daily VWAP, round about here, 73,000 sats, 73,500. Okay, so we're above all of the VWAPs. This is bullish for Ethereum. There's no two ways about it. Merge or no merge, the chart is telling you that this is a buy the dip market right now. Okay, so even if we were to pull back a little bit, like let's say for example that this comes all the way back down here to this trend line where the yearly VWAP is around about 70,000 sats. It's definitely a buy, okay, until proven otherwise. Of course, if we lose this and we start heading lower, then of course then we'll be looking at around about that 65,000 sats or whatever. But I mean, what are the chances of that? This is constructive price action. We're printing higher highs and higher lows here, and we have been for quite some time now. All right, so this is bullish for Ethereum, and there's no two ways about it. So anybody that's short the CPI print could give you a little bit of relief to be able to exit your position, but I would be very, very cautious of shorting this in this kind of market conditions right now. Okay, so that's Ethereum versus BTC. Now I'm going to move on to the FODL trading pairs and the DeFi coins that are basically tradable on the FODL platform. If you don't know what FODL is, basically FODL, I work for FODL. They are sponsoring this video, and it's basically a decentralized, fully decentralized leverage trading platform with zero funding rates, and you should definitely check it out. It's pretty smart, and it just means that you don't have to deposit any coins onto any exchange. You can keep the coins in your wallet, in your hardware wallet or whatever it is, and still trade with that. Okay, so it's incredible, right? So it's wonderful technology and a wonderful time to be making money in the markets. So check out FODL if you haven't already. Anyway, moving on, I just wanted to say that before I move on to the altcoin charts, even though altcoins have been pumping, you have to remember that altcoins are basically a beta leveraged reflection of what Bitcoin is doing. And if Bitcoin is very closely correlated to the S&P, we have to keep paying attention to the S&P and the Nasdaq in the traditional markets, right? The CPI print will affect it. And if Bitcoin decides to have a pullback, all of these altcoins will also have a massive pullback, okay? Usually exponentially higher. So if Bitcoin dumps 5%, some of these altcoins will dump 15, 20%, okay? So just keep that in mind, and that all the technical analysis that I do on altcoins could be very easily null and void if Ethereum and Bitcoin are not playing ball. So just keep this in mind, okay? Before I move on to those charts, I'll just have a look at what I've got here in terms of questions on the YouTube chat. Have I looked at similar correlation for the VIX and the S&P? Well, the word on the street is that the VIX is being more and more unreliable because the volatility index is being really, really low, and yet the markets are pumping, and that's usually not how it goes, right? So I think most people are seeing the VIX as a little bit of an unreliable measure right now, and they're looking at other metrics such as the year bonds and let me just see if I've still got that here, FOMC screen. There we go. So, for example, here on the weekly, you see the US dollar wants to head lower, right? So that's usually good for Bitcoin and everything else, right? Because obviously it's inversely correlated. We've got gold pushing up. We've got the 10-year bonds printing a double top here, even though it's had a massive rally to the upside, okay? So going back to 15th of October 2018 levels, right? And then you've got the S&P here wanting to print a higher high here, right? So I mean, the chart tells you all the news that you need to know, right? You don't need to be watching the news to know what's going on in the markets. If you see that this is indeed, like, you know, again, this could be, again, look, this is a top, deviation above, dump, right? This was a top, deviation above, dump, right? This could be a top, a deviation above, and then fucking dump, right? So there's no guarantee of anything. Nothing's guaranteed in the market. The only thing that's guaranteed in the market is that every now and again you get a shit sandwich handed to you. So I haven't looked at the VIX. I'm not really an expert in the traditional finance or in the boomer markets, so I kind of stay away from all of that stuff. I just analyze charts, man. So I'm sorry I can't really answer your question objectively, right? So anyway, like I said, we move on to the FODL trading pairs, and we start with FODL token here on OkEx. Now you can see that the momentum to the downside has definitely slowed down, right? We have seen for throughout this whole thing, we've seen that here we had a little bit of consolidation, right? But the whole thing is just been down, 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 down. And now it looks like we're kind of forming a bottom here, so to speak, right? And you can see that there's high volume here. There's an accumulation cylinder going on at these levels, right? So someone is definitely accumulating here. Now, the previous level of resistance, previous level of support, all the way up here, right? So we've got 6 cents and we've got 14 cents. If this starts printing higher highs, then we could be very easily heading to the next level of resistance. I don't think, because there's hardly any volume there, I don't think that any of this will be resistance, okay? In fact, I think that we'll see a very strong impulse straight to that previous level of support, which of course will be resistance, right? And then we want to see the reaction there. Is it going to be a strong rejection, or is it going to be just a short rejection and we're going to be hovering at resistance like that? If it's hovering at resistance, then I'm almost sure that we break to the upside. So we could then be trading inside of this range for quite some time, right? We've got the yearly VWAP above us as well. However, look at this as well. Large illiquid candle to the downside. So just as quickly as we move down, we could be moving up, perhaps not as high as that, but we could be moving up to this previous level of support where this will be resistance here, around about 14 cents. Okay, so of course we've got 10 cents as well to contend with, which is very close to where that yearly VWAP is, and I'm looking way too far ahead here, right? I'm just trying to highlight the fact that what we're spotting here right now is a slowdown in selling momentum here on FODL, right? We're seeing that the previous level of resistance, the previous level of support that should turn to resistance is miles away. I mean, this is one of the coins that hasn't pumped yet. It's 177% away, right? So make of that what you will. I'm not telling you to buy it. I'm just pointing out some, the obvious, I suppose, right? So in terms of sort of like market structure here, there's not really any indication that we've broken market structure at all, okay? So we're basically just going sideways here, right? So it does look like it wants to push to the upside, but this strong absorption means that these wicks, where people are just kind of selling, obviously people that have been trapped in these trades for quite some time want to be getting out. But once we get out of all this, we get rid of all the sellers, what do you think is going to happen, right? So just bear that in mind, especially if we've got big things coming for FODL. And I know that they're still working in the background to improve the platform and everything. So first levels of resistance, let me just put those levels here, support resistance levels. We've got this level here, this orange level here, around about 2 cents, right? 2 cents as a level of resistance, right? If we break above this 2 cent level, then I think that the next obvious level would be around about here, 2.5 cents, okay? If so, however, this doesn't even hold as resistance, then the next level of resistance will be all the way up here at 6 cents. And like I said, that's a huge trade, right? Even from this confirmation, you're looking at 186%. All right, so again, I'm not telling you to buy. We could quite easily have a bad CPI print and this continues to print new lows, right? I'm just paying attention to that. This is a very obvious accumulation cylinder here. So I just want you to pay attention to that. That's all I'm saying, right? So that's on FODL versus USDT here on OkEx. Let's move on to FODL versus USDC on sushiswap. Okay, very much the same thing. We've got about 38% to the next level of resistance, and if we break above this level of resistance, we've got about 130% to the most significant level of resistance, which is this previous level of consolidation, right? This is basically largely a liquid, right? So liquid candles tend to get retraced all the time. So if we do find ourselves above this level here, then I think that the move to this next level of resistance will be very quick, just like we saw here. Okay, so just keep that in mind. But you know, definitely this is resistance until proven otherwise, and we could be trending here for quite some time. Okay, just ranging like this, right, for quite some time. So just, you know, you could be trading this on the 4-hour, on the 8-hour chart. It's perhaps a little bit more visible here. Let's have a look at that. Okay, so on the 8 hours, you can see that this was a high, this was the low, and we've kind of just printed a higher high here. We're printing higher lows as well. So there's definitely accumulation going on here. So, you know, we'll see if we can break above this low volume node and go all the way up to this one here, to the edge of this high volume cluster here. If we can do that, then of course that's 38% booked. And if we break above that, then big trade to the upside. Okay, so that's FODL versus USDT now, versus USDC on sushiswap. Now let's move on to FODL versus ETH. Now I'd be very surprised if this is looking strong versus Ethereum, because Ethereum is looking so strong, but nevertheless I'll have a look at this on the daily chart here. And no, of course we're not seeing, we saw a little bit of a pause in momentum here, but we're still seeing lower highs and lower lows, and that's only because Ethereum's looking so strong, right? So I'm looking at big round numbers because this is at all-time low. I'm looking at big round numbers for potential levels of support. There's no previous price action for us to go from to draw any levels of support below us, so all you can rely on is basically big round numbers. Okay, level of resistance, I'll be looking at this one here. As a previous level of resistance, because we've already tapped it there, as you can see, right? And if we break above that, then we could potentially be going all the way to this one here, and potentially that one there. But I'm looking at this one here because this is the edge of a high volume cluster. So actually I'm going to delete that. You can see here, this is a high volume cluster there, right? So we could potentially see a little bit of resistance here, right? So we'd be doing something like this, and then just range here. And then if we break to the upside, that'll be the next level of resistance. If we break to the downside, that'll be the next level of support. So that'll be sort of like a range forming around about there, like that, okay? Of course, if we break above this previous level of support here, then the range will be that one there, as indicated by this high volume cluster here. So that's on FODL versus ETH. Now, BNB USD, I've been looking forward to charting this one because I think BNB is looking really strong, right? So this was a previous level of resistance that I'd highlighted, so I'm going to change that and put that as support now. And the reason that is there, in fact I'm going to delete it for a second, is that you can see that that was resistance. It was the previous 2021 VWAP close there, okay? And that was acting as resistance, but we did break above it. We also break back above this range here, right? So this is a range that we're in, as you can see here with this high volume cluster. So now I'm expecting this level here to hold as support even if we had bad news, but essentially I'm looking at the value area low here to hold as support as well, which has perfect confluence with this low volume node down here. So let me just delete all of these scribbles so that you guys can see a little bit more objectively. I'm looking at this here as support, and I'm looking at this yearly VWAP here, and this, the beginning of this low volume node as resistance here, around about $336, okay, $350 or something like that. So essentially I'm looking at this potential range here. If we break above it, like I said, we've got the yearly VWAP, which will be strong resistance, okay. It's also got confluence with the previous level of support, right? And it's the edge of a high volume cluster there. So acceptance above this, excuse me, would mean that almost certainly we go and start trading inside of there. So in fact, I'm going to change this slightly. I'm going to put that level there. Okay. So that's basically what we're looking for right now. All right. So I hope this kind of makes sense. I'm looking at right about $336, $350 as resistance. If we break above that, then I'll be looking at $450 as the next level of resistance, as we would be entering a massive high volume cluster. Okay. $400 is a big round number. Yes, of course it was. Here was resistance as well, around about $400. But, you know, a high volume cluster, usually when we enter a balance area, as you probably know, the only thing that can disrupt that is the point of control. And basically that one means that we go like this, go to the point of control, come back to the value area low, confirm it as support, and then we travel to both sides of the balance to confirm that that is indeed the balance area. That's, markets are always seeking balance. That's basically how it works, right? So this is an imbalance here, this low volume node, and therefore is resistance until proven otherwise. If we smash straight above it, then we want to get acceptance back inside of this, and that's basically what's working here. So currently we are inside of this balance area here, and we want to see the price kind of rotating in between those two levels. So be looking at that next level, $276, $300 potentially for support. Okay, so we could be seeing something like this. If we break above it, they'll be looking at this as the next range. Okay, this is a key level here with that yearly VWAP right there. All right, so key level of resistance. So that's BNB versus USD. Now I'm not going to be trading, charting any of these coins versus Bitcoin because Ethereum is outperforming Bitcoin. if you're going to be trading any shitcoins, you might as well be trading the altcoins that are out against the one asset that is outperforming, right? The better performing asset. In this case, it's Ethereum. So I'll do all these altcoins trading against Ethereum. So here we are. We're basically inside of this range here. Let me just change this to green, as this should be acting as support here, right? In fact, I'm going to put it right there. I'm going to move this slightly like this. Okay, so now this is resistance until proven otherwise. Okay, I'm going to put this as red. And this is support until proven otherwise. Okay, note how we are basically at the value area high of the yearly VWAP. Okay, so I know there's quite a lot of lines there, but as you can almost make out, this here, the blue line here is the value area high. This is the value area low for basically the 2021 VWAP. Okay, so this is a 2021 value, and we've broken above that, and now we are well above the 2021 value and also the 2022 value, which is basically this squiggly line here, right? So in terms of the VWAPs, we are basically doing really, really well here on Binance, right? So we're kind of trying to find acceptance inside of this range. This is going to be resistance until proven otherwise. This here should act as support until proven otherwise, right? So I'm going to delete this line here. So this is basically the range that I'll be looking to trade, right? So somewhere inside of here. That's basically where we're trading. So if we break above this level of resistance, then we go to this one here. If we break below the level of support, we'll be going to this level here, which is where the yearly VWAP is. Okay, so that's basically it. So in fact, I'm going to change this to an orange line, right? Because you can see we've got like a triple distribution going on here. 1 balance, 2 balance, 3 balance areas. Okay, so that's basically the ranges that you want to be trading, right? So we either going to be trading here, or if we break above it, then we're going to the next level of resistance here. If we break below it, then we'll be trading down here. If we break below that, then we'll be trading down in this one. I hope that kind of makes sense. Okay, so at the moment, it does look like it's about to test support here. So let's just see what happens at these levels here. At these levels, I'll definitely be buying and holding BNB instead of Ethereum, because it does look like BNB wants to outperform Ethereum here. Okay, so let's just see what happens. Either way, BNB looking really, really bullish. Moving on to AAVE USD. Now, AAVE still kind of stuck in the range here. We're basically... Let me just delete all of these brush marks and just start again. Right. So basically, this is resistance, this is support, and we're kind of stuck in this range until proven otherwise. If we break above this level of resistance, then I've got this level here around about $135 as the next level of resistance. That's where the yearly VWAP is. Okay. So, and it's also, I believe that this is also the edge of a, yeah, that's right. That's the edge of a high volume cluster here. Right, so you want to be paying attention to that level, around about $136 as the next level of resistance. If we do indeed break above $110, okay? At the moment, we are stuck somewhere just above $100, but somewhere between $110 and $75, okay? So we're basically trading inside of this range here. All right, so that's AAVE versus USD. On AAVE versus ETH, you can see very clearly here that we basically bounced back in above the yearly VWAP, right? And it does look like it wants to head back down again. Now, we're inside what is a very, very large high volume cluster here, and we're approaching resistance here in front of this low volume node, right? So the current range that we're trading in, let me just take this off. The current range that we're trading is this one here, right? Which is really, really clear. So basically, this here is resistance, and this here is support. If we break below this yearly VWAP, then I think we're going to go down to this value area low down here, right? You can see that this is like a double distribution in this high volume cluster here. So this here should hold a support round about this level here, and this here is resistance. So therefore, I do think that we'll be trading inside of here. Okay, so this range here. okay, with a low volume node above us. And that's basically where we're trading right now. All right, so somewhere between 552 and 639 way on AAVE versus ETH. On compound versus USD, we've broken above this previous level of resistance. We've not quite confirmed it as support, but I'll put that as green anyway. And it does look like the next level is $75, okay? We're currently sitting at $64, right? But we're back inside of that range. So round about $60 as support, $75 as resistance. And that's basically where I see compound heading right now, to round about $75, okay? Break above that, we're looking at $80 and potentially $90 here as resistance. If we break below that, then I'm looking at $50, which is this low volume area here, as support. Compound versus ETH, we've just been rejected here on compound versus ETH at the yearly VWAP. Like I said, that's previous resistance, right? You guys know that you know, some big traders are looking and trading this not just against USD, but they're trading this versus the best performing asset, which in this case is Ethereum, right? So of course this is going to cause interest, right? So again, like I you know, if you can go back and check last week's technical analysis updates and see where I traded, where I put these levels. The levels are already there for a reason. They've been there since last week. This is not hindsight trading. We've come up to the yearly VWAP, confirmed that this is indeed resistance, right? And now we're heading down. So the value area low is way down here. So I would expect the range to form somewhere between these two levels here, right? If we break to the up, if we continue to break to the downside, then this level here, around about 250 way, is the next level of support. And again, I'm just looking at big round numbers, okay? Because there's no previous price action. There's no frame of reference to go for levels of support. However, if we do break to the upside, okay, then this here, around about 500 way, is the next level of resistance. And we could be forming a range up there, especially because if we break above this, then the yearly VWAP will now be support, right? That's a strong level of support, just like it has been a strong level of resistance here. So just bear that in mind, okay? So again, we've been rejected here. At the moment, the current range is this one here. If we break above it, then this will be the next level of resistance, potentially here as well, right? If we break below that, then the next level of support should be down here. Therefore, we're trading in this range here for now. All right, so that's compound versus ETH. Moving on to BAT USD. Now, BAT USD is still hovering at resistance. We've not done anything about that. And it's just basically like, you know, not finding enough strength to break above that. So let's just delete some of these brush marks. And in fact, let me take that out. Okay, so this is basically a huge accumulation cylinder here on BAT, right? So you can see that basically we've got yeah, just a brush will do. Got a massive high volume cluster here, right? So if we break above that, there's not really much in the way of resistance. I mean, you can see a little cluster here, you can see a little cluster there as well. Okay, so we could be looking at big round numbers such as $55 and potentially $75 as the next levels of resistance. Okay, but at the moment we're still very much being held by this low volume node here as resistance. Okay, and as such, this is resistance until proven otherwise. This is support until proven otherwise, and therefore this is the range here. Now, it does look like the price got slightly above that. Well, it did here so as well, right? There was a deviation. We deviated above and then came all the way back down to support. So don't get too excited, okay? But if we were to break above this, then of course the next level of resistance that I'm looking for is around about $55. Okay, so at the moment that's all I can see here, and of course that this is a low volume area here, right? This is a low volume area. You can see the nature of this candle. It's a large liquid candle, big in efficiency. If this was to rally to the upside, it'll be very, very quick. Okay, so just keep that in mind. All right, but if you've been playing the range here where you basically go short at the top and long at the bottom, you've been doing very, very well indeed. So again, don't go long at resistance. Confirm that this is support, and the confirmation would look something like this. Break above, come back, confirm that the top of that range resistance is now indeed support, and it starts curling up to the upside. That's your entry for a long, and you'll be targeting this level here. Okay, so don't go aping in. Now, moving on to BAT versus ETH. BAT versus ETH looking a little bit shabby here. It does look like it wants to head down to support round about here, right? The value area low of the current year's VWAP. So let me just delete some of these brush marks here. Right, so this is resistance. This here is support until proven otherwise, and I expect a range to be forming in here somewhere, okay? Break above this level of resistance, we'll be heading over to this level here. If we break level of support, we'll be heading down to these lows down here. Okay. Moving on to Link USD. Now, I know Link has been doing quite well just lately. So again, let me just delete some of these brush marks. So as you can see, this here was a previous level of resistance. That's where I had my arrow to. We finally broke above that. Okay, so previous level of resistance should turn to support. I'll put that as orange. In fact, no, I'll put it as green because that's a confirmation there. In my personal opinion, that's been confirmed. Let's just make sure we see that on the 4-hour chart. Okay, so we actually, this was a previous level of resistance. We actually broke above it, and we've not confirmed that as support yet. So I'm going to leave that as orange, actually. Okay, I'd like to see a better tap of that to confirm that this is indeed support here. Okay, so let's go back to the daily chart here, and let's just see what happens. Okay, so obviously this is a previous range. It's the range high here, resistance. That was resistance, resistance. Broke above it, confirmed that it's support, and we rallied, but we haven't really quite confirmed this. This is a bit of a sketchy one. So I expect this level here to be resistance. I expect this level here to be support. Note how it's the edge of a high volume cluster here. So if we do head all the way up there, I'd like to see a range forming somewhere inside of here. Right? However, if we could continue higher, then I'm looking perhaps not so much, well, I'll look at here at $10 as the next level of resistance, but I'm looking really around about $11, which is a previous level of support here, right? But you can see that there's not much in the way of volume all the way up there, right? I mean, the volume starts at around about here, around about $13, $12, right? Where basically where that yearly VWAP is where the real volume starts. Right, around about $12. So we could potentially be heading to $10 very, very quickly here on Link versus USD if this continues rallying. But we'll have to wait and see. For now, we're kind of like impulse range, right? So we've had the impulse. Will it continue to range here? If it does, this here is resistance. This here should be support until proven otherwise. Moving on to Link versus ETH. So I'm looking at this level here as resistance, this level here as support. I'm going to delete those lines just because they're really, really messy. I'm going to simplify this again. Okay, so again, resistance, support. I expect the range to be forming here. Break above that, this will be the next level of resistance. Break below that, this will be the next level of support. It's as simple as that. Okay, so that's Link versus ETH. And then finally, Uni USD. So Uniswap versus USD, we're basically exactly at the same spot that we were just before the weekend, okay? So this is the range. I don't need to redraw that again. This is basically resistance here. This is basically support here, and I expect this to be ranging somewhere like that. This is an important level of support. This is the yearly VWAP. If we lose this on Uni versus USD, then I think we're going to go much lower to around about $6 again. However, if it stays above here, then I don't see no reason for it not to go up to $10 and perhaps even higher to around about $13, $15. Okay, so that's on Uni versus USD, and basically we broke above a key level of support here at Uni USD above $8. So above $8 is bullish for Uni versus USD. Now we're basically still above this level here. So let me just redraw this again. Right, so we confirmed that the value area high of 2022 is indeed support, right? This is a previous level here of resistance. We've broken above it. Let's see if we can have that as support. If that's support, then this level here is resistance, of course. This here is support, and we'll be trading inside of this range. It's as simple as that. Okay, so that's basically what we're looking right now in terms of levels of support. If we do break down, then I'll be looking around about this level here, and this level here as potential levels of support as well. Okay, so that's on Uni versus ETH. But for now, I do think that this here is capped at resistance. This here should be capped at support. And that's basically it for all the technical analysis update. This is a very, very long one, so I do apologize for that, but it's the beginning of the week. I hope that this was useful. I hope it helps you stay on the right side of the markets. I will do another TA update for you guys on Wednesday morning to try and preempt the PCI print. sorry, the CPI print. But until then, trade smart, do not get over leveraged, and remember that Wednesday is going to be volatile. So if you've got any positions or whatever, it'll probably be quite wise to reduce exposure. All right. So again, I hope this helps you. Have a great beginning of the week. See you guys on Wednesday morning. And in the meantime, trade smart and take care. Bye-bye.